life is good, eternal life is better. All around me, your creation brings me to my knees in adoration. Beauty here cannot compare to what I'll see when I first see you. Life is good, eternal life is better. Life is good, eternal life is better. Life is good, eternal life is better.
Hey, welcome to The Road. The Road is a Christian variety show. I forgot where I was for a second. The Road is a Christian variety show. I'm your host, Eric Bombeck. If you're a regular listener to The Road, you'll know this name. Eugene Bach is with me today. Eugene has been on the show for many years, and multiple times many years. And the best way to define him is as missionary spy. He travels with a missionary organization called Back to Jerusalem, and they travel through North Korea and China and help the underground churches there, and then all through the Mideast, anywhere between Jerusalem and Iran, I guess it would be. And so he is all over the place, and really most of the stories he has are you can't really get anywhere else. Consistently, always has stories that often that are opposite of what they're telling us in the news. And so I am so honored and happy to have Eugene with me. So listen into my interview with Eugene Bach here on The Road. Eugene Bach, welcome back to the show. How many times is this, my friend?
I don't know, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the friendship, and every time I get a message from you, I'm always excited about being on your show. So, thanks. It's not often that I don't burn bridges, so I'm thankful for those that stay open.
I hear you. I know you travel the third world countries. I'm sure you have to burn your bridges just to keep the secrecy alive.
Yeah, and I'm not very good at holding my tongue, so
Right.
I'm thankful for the few friends that I've got, and you're one of them.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you saying that, and the feeling is mutual. You have a new book out about Robert Jermaine Thomas, and then I'm going to try to attempt to say the word in the title, and you can correct me. But the name of the book is Blood in the River Pyongyang.
Yes, that's right. It's that story is just one that has hit me hard. I've been fascinated with it for years, and I've just been super privileged to sit down, study his legacy, the legacy of Robert Jermaine Thomas, the guy who changed Korea forever. And I just came out with a biography about his life.
Tell me about his story, Eugene.
Yeah, it's one that is not easy to do in like one sentence, so I'm always happy to be on your show because you allow me to bloviate a little bit.
Yeah, take your time.
He was a guy that was called to China. He felt called to be a missionary in the 1800s. So around the 1850s, he moves as a young man to Shanghai. And he takes his wife together with him, and everything that can go wrong does go wrong. And that's what I liked about his story, because he showed that someone who feels like a failure their entire life can be used by God. So he arrives, he studied the wrong language. He doesn't know how to talk with anybody because they're speaking Shanghaiese, they're speaking Fujianhua, they're speaking Guangdonghua, and they're speaking Mandarin. So there's like 4 or 5 different languages. He doesn't know which one to study. He's confused. He doesn't have Duolingo or Google Translate, so he's getting frustrated while being there. He starts to work with the guy that he's supposed to serve under on the mission field, and they don't get along. They don't like each other. So basically, he decides, this is not working. I'm going to go to another city in China and do some exploration. While he's in this other city of China called Wuhan, the one where the coronavirus broke out, he goes to Wuhan, and while in Wuhan, somebody delivers him a message and says, hey, dude, your wife just died, and your only child. Ugh. So his wife and child died. And this is a spoiler alert, but he basically quits ministry, says, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what I'm even doing here, but he doesn't have enough money to go back home to England. So he ends up taking a secular job. And while at that secular job, he meets these people that he's never heard of before called Koreans. And then again, he gets this calling, take the Bible to Korea. Long story short, he ends up on the very first U.S. trade ship to Korea. It's called the SS Sherman. He gets on that ship, goes to deliver Bibles, and on day one, after they arrive, they're attacked. The ship is burned, and every single person on board is killed.
Wow.
Robert Jermaine Thomas is also killed. But the guy that kills him, the soldier that cuts off his head, decides that, you know what, this Bible, this book, is worth more than I will make in a year, so he takes it home. And he ends up ripping the pages out and decorating his house with the pages of this Bible, and then reads the pages every day and becomes a believer.
Wow.
In 1907, this soldier that becomes a believer from this one guy ends up in a meeting where he just feels the guilt on him. And so he begins to tell everybody in this Bible study in Pyongyang, guys, you don't know this, but 41 years ago, I killed the man who brought the first Bible to our country. And revival breaks out. And there's more Christians that end up coming out of that than any other revival in Korean history. In fact, all of those Christians end up escaping from the communist revolution in the 1950s. And they escape over to South Korea, which is why today South Korea is mainly a Christian country. And if the story stopped there, it would be an amazing testimony about how God can use people that feel like failures, but it doesn't, at least not for me. I found myself in the archives of the University of London, digging through the original letters that Robert Jermaine Thomas sent to his mission-sending organization in London called the London Mission Society. And so I'm reading through these letters, and for 50 years, all of the missionaries consider this guy a loser, and they say, you know what not to do? Do not follow the example of this guy. While I was sitting there in London, I had a Sunday with my cameraman, and I was like, hey, you know what? Let's, you and I, the two of us, drive to Wales, where this guy is from, and go to the church that sent him to see, is that church even there 250 years later? So we drive there together, small place in the middle of nowhere, Wales. There's no road that leads to this church. You have to drive through like a cornfield, these little grooves in the field in order to get to the church parking area, and there's like nobody there except for the pastor. And until the day I die, I will never forget watching that pastor walk through the doors, because I could have never expected what I saw. It was the pastor walks out, and he's Korean. I'm like, what the? Dude, how did you make it from Korea to here in the middle of nowhere, Wales? And he was like, my nation was changed because of this one man. My nation sent me here because we owe a debt to this one Robert Jermaine Thomas. It was one of the most fascinating stories I've ever come across, and I had to share it. So, yeah, we came out with a book this month called Blood in the Water of Pyongyang, the story of Robert Jermaine Thomas. It's phenomenal. I just gave the headlines, but there's so much more to his story.
Well, I can say from reading a handful of your books in the past that they're all very well written and fascinating, and this one sounds like it is as well. Eugene, I have other subjects I want to go into, so usually I ask a guest at the end to tell people how to get the book, but I'm going to ask you now so that we can switch gears and go to some other subjects. How does somebody get that book?
Yeah, the best way is just go onto Amazon. You can look up my name, Eugene Bach, and you'll find it pop up, or you can look up Robert Jermaine Thomas, spelled just as it sounds. You can get that on Amazon. You can go to our website as well, backtojerusalem.com, and click there, and it'll lead you right to the place to buy that book. That's
backtojerusalem.com. Talk to me a little bit about what's going on in Nigeria. It sounds like it's a pretty bad situation there.
Yeah, you know, it's been the one country with the worst persecution of Christians in the world for over a decade now. And really, nobody has made a peep about it for years until recently, which I'm very thankful for. We did a Christmas program half a year ago during Christmas, because Christmas and Easter are the two most dangerous times in Nigeria for Christians. You are seeing one Christian that is killed for roughly every hour. It's less than an hour. It's usually like 34 minutes. Depends if you're looking at 2023, 24, 25. But 25 was one of the safest years for Christians that we've seen so far. But it's still pretty bad. And this year also, almost every week, we are seeing Christians being slaughtered on a mass scale
By who,
in
Eugene?
Nigeria.
What's going on there? Help me understand. Is it Muslim invaders? What is it?
So if you listen to the news or mainstream media, what you are going to be told is that this is tribal warfare. That is a lie. You are also going to hear that this has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with resources. That is a lie. You're also going to be hearing things like, oh, this is the result of global warming and climate change,
Right.
because water in the north has become less, and so the farmers in the north are going south looking for resources in the south, and that's where the Christians are. That is also a lie. The truth is that you have tribe members that are in the north that are mainly living in radical Islamic areas, and they want to spread their domain. And so they are going specifically into Christian areas, taking over their villages, taking over their farms, taking over their resources. So it's a grab for land. It's an elimination and genocide of Christians. And I don't want to say that it's supported by the government, though I do believe it kind of is. But I will say that the government is mainly standing off to the side while it happens. The Christians have attempted to arm themselves to protect themselves, and they are arrested if they arm themselves. So they're not allowed to protect themselves. They're not allowed to fight back. The Muslims are allowed, the Fulani tribe members are allowed to have weapons. The Christians are not. And
Wow.
They have been raiding Christian areas now for over a decade. And we're talking about tens of thousands of Christians being murdered on a massive scale. And if it was in any other place with any other religion being focused on, if Buddhists were the focus of being killed, if Muslims, God forbid, were the focus of being slaughtered in this way, there would be a massive outcry. But because it's Christians, it's mainly been silent. So it is the silent genocide.
I so much appreciate you bringing this information to us. A lot of the times, the stuff that you talk about, you really can't get anywhere else. If you just happen to be tuning in or you're listening online, you're listening to The Road. I'm Eric Bombeck. My guest is Eugene Bach, and he is, I call him a missionary spy, travels a lot of China and North Korea and different countries, and is attempting to spread the gospel with his evangelistic organization called Back to Jerusalem. Talk to me. I know that we've been at war now with Iran. Talk to me about there are Christians and early Christians, where some of the earliest Christians were Persians in Iran. They don't consider themselves to be Arabs, and so there's war going on there. Help me understand what their plight is these days, Eugene.
Yeah, right now I have to tell you, I'm a little bit perplexed. Maybe you know things on this that I don't, to be honest, because the Christians there are, they have been really sharing with me that there's a challenge for them. They are challenged because they don't want to see a peace deal at this stage in Iran. And that is, brother, that's across the board. I mean, I work with many different Christians in many different areas of Iran, and regardless of what people think politically, they do not want to see a peace deal because
what's your best
government
guess?
that is in charge.
They don't want this government.
I'm sorry?
They don't want this government that's in charge now to get that peace deal. Help me understand why you think that is.
Yes, the life during war is more tolerable than life under the Islamic regime of Iran.
Wow!
But here's the thing that I don't get. and the thing that perplexes me, and this has not really been talked about, and I'm not getting it. Is I spend a lot of time in the areas between China and Jerusalem. One of those areas is Central Asia. And in Central Asia, which I was just, at a couple weeks ago, and I'm spending a lot of time there these days. And when I'm talking Central Asia, I'm talking Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, that kind of Stan area. That region has been huge recipients of the largest financial investment from China of any other region in the world. It's called the One Belt, One Road Initiative. I've mentioned it on your show before, but for your guests that don't know about it, it is an initiative for business in areas between China and Jerusalem, initiated by China, where they go in and they help build infrastructure like communication infrastructure, mobile phone towers, satellite systems. They build roads and railroads. They build presidential palaces and soccer stadiums, factories, and all these different things. And they make these deals that are basically like predatory loans in order to get access to resources that they need, like rare earths and those kind of things. For instance, they'll go into a place like Uganda and they'll say, hey, we're going to build roads, and for collateral, we want your airport. So just in case you don't pay your loan, we'll take your only international airport, which is what they did. So Entebbe, which is the major international airport in Uganda, is now owned by China.
Wow.
And so anybody in Uganda that wants to fly in and out with their government or fly in other government officials, they have to get permission from China. It's crazy. So what I noticed was last year, they built a railroad system between Iran and China. It was finished last year. It's actually almost 1 year ago today, May 25th of 2025. And this is something that really confuses me. So, it was almost a masterclass, in my opinion. Your viewers might feel differently, but I feel like the military strategy against Iran was a masterclass. I mean, you took out a nation that had the world's top 10 military. You had a nation that is 3 times bigger in both population and land size than the nation of Ukraine, and we've seen the bloodbath that has been taking place there between Russia and Ukraine. And you would assume every military strategist in the world basically said anybody that goes to war with Iran is going to find themselves in a bloodbath. That was a given. However, in a matter of days, not weeks or months, in a matter of days, the U.S. and Israel took out the entire Navy of Iran. They took out the Air Force of Iran. They took out their air defense system. And then now today we are sitting in a situation where they've blocked the main trade route to Iran, the Hormuz Strait, right? I mean, we've been hearing this term Hormuz Strait almost every day ad nauseum on the mainstream media. What I am blown away by is that now that Iran, because I've been thinking, oh yeah, they're going to run out of weapons any day now. They can't rebuild their missiles, they can't rebuild their drones, and now they're going to use them all up, and they're going to be low in their cache, and they're not going to be able to do it anymore. So we're just going to run them dry. And they keep making more missiles, and they keep making more drones. And I'm like, how in the world is that happening? Well, it turns out that connection by rail between China and Iran, and your listeners don't have to take my word for it, just go and look this up. This rail system, which became a lifeline, has actually grown in the last month. It used to only be one train going between Iran and China, one per week. Now it's like one every 2 or 3 days. And so they've increased the volume and the size of these cargo trains going back and forth between China. Not only are they increasing this route, it's cutting the time frame that it takes to deliver goods. So instead of taking over a month by the sea route, going from the Hormuz Strait to China and from China to the Hormuz Strait, it now takes 15 days. So you're cutting the time in half of what it takes to get goods between China and Iran. And China and Iran have great relations with all of the Central Asian countries, which means that all of the goods going back and forth might be known by those Central Asian countries, but it's definitely not known by NATO, the U.S., or the UN, which means all that cargo is a mystery.
So it could be arms. You're saying it could be arms. It could be whatever.
It could be oil. It could be stuffed unicorns. It could be nuclear fission material.
Sure,
I mean, we don't know. We have no clue what is going back and forth. And so the reason I'm blown away, and maybe you or somebody in your team knows, like, why isn't that? Because that goes from Xi'an, which is the middle of China, the ancient capital of China, all the way to Tehran. And as far as, and I was just in Central Asia last week, and I was just in the Middle East last week as well. As far as I can tell and see, and from all of the research that I've done, which was just up until today, that train is still trucking back and forth, fully loaded, not being stopped, not being slowed down. In fact, they're increasing the number of trains going back and forth. And like, could you think of any, like, if you put on your tin hat conspiracy theory, can you dream of a reason why that is allowed to continue?
The only thing that I could possibly imagine, Eugene, would be that obviously, if you're aware of it, our governments, our intel is aware of it, and they don't want to take out or bomb, if you will, a train that is considered to be owned by the Chinese government. Then you open up another can of worms, I'm guessing. But that's just a guess.
It's a good guess. That would be my guess as well. It's just not to tick off the Chinese. That's the only thing that I could really guess as well. I'm sitting there, like you said, I mean, if I can, but here's another thing. Why isn't this all over CNN and BBC and Fox News? Why isn't this ever a subject that's even brought up or talked about? And it's not like I'm talking about something that can't be researched, brother.
Well, do you think if you're thinking about bombing it out, maybe you don't talk about it ahead of time because you don't want people to be aware of it?
The news would.
Well, I mean, you don't let the news know.
I would think that the news would.
Well, there's no news anymore. We know that whatever's being fed to the news, they report these days. That's pretty obvious. But I would think you don't feed it to the news if you're the government. If maybe you are planning on taking it out and you don't want it to people to be aware of it, and then it causes an uproar if you take it out because they're already aware of it. But we're just guessing.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story, man.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess because, I mean, one of the things that I'm thankful for is kind of being positioned in these places where I'm there to see the train start its maiden voyage, and I'm able to kind of witness these things firsthand. But at the same time, when you're watching things on the ground and you're watching things in the news and they're not really matching up, you kind of sit back and think, like, what am I missing? What part of the puzzle is not fitting here, because this doesn't make sense to me.
Let's switch gears just briefly. There are some we got about 4 minutes baptisms going on in Afghanistan. Talk about that.
Yeah, one of the amazing things about Afghanistan is we've been working together with Iranian missionaries, and yes, these are Christians that are saved in Iran, and they feel that they have been called to go and preach the gospel in Afghanistan. So they have been going to Afghanistan, working in Afghanistan together with the Chinese, and they are seeing so many people come to Christ in Afghanistan. We've seen more people come to Christ since the Taliban has taken over than during the entire 20 years of U.S. occupation and maybe the last 2,000 years of the country's history. It's been absolutely phenomenal to watch, and it's been really powerful. So we've been thankful for what we've been seeing in Afghanistan when it comes to the number of people coming to Christ. There really is something happening with the underground church there, and it continues to grow.
We've talked in the past about revival in China. Is that still happening at the pace that it was happening at? Help me understand what's going on there.
Yeah, it really is. There was a time where it felt like the church was going to get some freedom, and then in 2019, and I've been on your show for a few times since 2019, when persecution really increased. Last month I was in Shanghai, And while I was in Shanghai, I was speaking in a church that had a spy, and that spy was responsible for 2 Bible schools being shut down. So the persecution continues. We had 2 other Bible schools in Hunan province, which is in the middle of China, kind of the Indiana, if you will, of China. They had 2 Bible schools there that were shut down and 4 leaders that were arrested. And we still continue to see persecution and church growth. In fact, any of your listeners that saw President Trump go to China last month, while he was there, he was asked on his way back on Air Force One during one of their press gaggles, he was asked, did you bring up the subject of Pastor Ezra Jean? And he said that he did. So President Trump actually brought up the imprisonment of Pastor Ezra Jean, who I work together with. We're actually sponsoring his family and his church with legal fees and support for their families as they're, in hiding at the moment, and for their children to go to school. And as soon as President Trump got onto Air Force One and departed from China, I guess this really peeved off the Chinese president, because the very next day, President Xi ordered a raid into Wenzhou, and a church was raided. We put up an article on our website about it. There was actually a 77-year-old pastor who was arrested in that crackdown that happened immediately following the departure of President Trump, and no word yet on any news on the release of Pastor Ezra Jean.
Sounds like a plot from the Hunger Games, Eugene. It's unbelievable what's going on. What's unbelievable what's going on around the world. Hey, how does someone find you, connect with you, find you guys, support you if they would like to? Help them understand how to get a hold of you guys.
Yeah, it's very easy. You just go to backtojerusalem.com, spelled exactly as it sounds, backtojerusalem.com. There they can get all the information of our social media links, our YouTube links. That is the best source of information for our ministry.
And the book, again, is, tell people one more time about the book.
Yep, the book is Blood in the Water of Pyongyang, The True Story of Robert Jermaine Thomas.
By Eugene Bach, Bach like the composer, like Bach. Hey, man, anything you want to say before we go? Yeah, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me on again. I really appreciate it. It's always a joy, brother.
Yeah, I always appreciate you, and I always say you're going to get information from Eugene that you really can't get anywhere else. So we appreciate you so much agreeing to come on a couple times a year and doing the show. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for your flexibility. I know that I'm always bouncing around, and you always make it fit the schedule. So I'm super, super thankful. Much love to you and your entire audience.
Thank you so much. My thanks to Eugene Bach for being on the show. He is always wonderful. I describe him as a missionary spy. He was calling in from Stockholm, by the way. So nice, clear connection there in from Stockholm. But he always has information that no one else has. And there's a lot going on in the world. Like this story, if you listen to the interview, well, hopefully you listen to the interview if you're listening to the end of this. That was kind of dumb on my part. Like the train that is going into Iran right now from China. You don't hear those things on the news, all the time coming in and out of there. It's very strange. There's lots of weird things that go on in that region that we don't really hear about. And frankly, up until maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I remember saying how myopic, for lack of a better word, meaning just how we're just focused on ourselves here in America. We don't really pay attention to what's going on. There might be like a 1 minute on the news years ago, world news report. But now I think we're becoming, as the world gets to be smaller and smaller, then we are now starting to get lots more world news, but we really don't get a lot of details on what's going on around the world. And so I think most of the mainstream media is, well, I know that it's owned by only a few people these days. About 80% of the media is owned by 6 different guys. So there's not a lot of variety, and we don't necessarily getting the full story in a lot of the mainstream media these days. And that's why I like Eugene, because he he'll give us the story that you're not going to get anywhere else. And you can get stories here on my show that you're not going to get anywhere else. If you're listening to this on the radio, that's great. But also you can hear this show on YouTube and Spotify, any place you can get podcasts. Well, I'm just about out of time. You know what I always say? It's time for me to hit the road.